Hey, what's up everybody? It's Rutek. Today we'll be talking about the top 5 best $300 monitors that you can get in January of 2022. Nowadays, $300 will get you an incredible display for very competitive gaming. Like seriously, these monitors will give you a competitive edge and kind of an advantage, and you'll see why shortly. Although you're sacrificing a few things for such an edge of competitiveness, it seems like it's a really fair trade-off as long as your priority is doing well in whatever game you may be playing. So before we start talking about these top 5 monitors, let me tell you about Digital Chill Mart. DigitalChillMart.com is the best place to get cheap Windows 10 and 11 license keys. If you're building a PC or have built one, but you're still running an unactivated version of Windows, Digital Chill Mart has you covered. Simply go to the front page of their website, scroll down a bit, and you'll find Windows 10 and 11 for great prices. And the prices get better. I have a coupon code for you guys to use. Type in RUTEC right here, and it'll be instantly applied. Link for digitalchillmart.com will be in my description. Also, just so you guys know, these monitors are in no particular order. However, I will be mentioning my favorite of the 5 at the end of the video. So in the number 1 slot, I picked the Asus TUF Gaming Monitor. This is simply a monitor that is solely made for gamers, and let me tell you why. For starters, this Asus monitor has a size of 24.5 inches, so just a little bit bigger than the usual 24 inches. Surely that extra half inch will give you a huge advantage in gaming. I mean, a half inch is really big, right? And as for the resolution, it is full HD, meaning 1080p. Now, 1080p may seem like something you'd expect in a lower price range, something for the sub $250 range, but in truth, this monitor actually has a lot of properties that you'd seek for gaming that would make up for the fact that this monitor is not 1440p. One example being the refresh rate. This guy has a 280 Hz refresh rate. That's really smooth. Granted, unless you have a very powerful graphics card, you can only utilize this very high refresh rate in lower demanding games such as CSGO, League, Valorant, etc. But nonetheless, you'll never need to worry about having your PC outputting more frames than your monitor can render. And how about the response time? As expected, it's 1 millisecond. Pretty standard for these gaming monitors. As for the panel type, it's IPS, which is a pleasant surprise. IPS means you'll be getting the best color range out of the 3 popular panel types out there. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, there are 3 main panel types used for most monitors, being TN, VA, and IPS. They have their own pros and cons, but nowadays with higher end IPS panels, you're getting the best experience. Something unique this monitor has is ELMB Sync, which essentially is a built-in technology that eliminates ghosting and tearing for sharp visuals and high frame rates while gaming. It also has G-Sync. And how about the stand? The stand does have height, tilt, and swivel adjust, which is awesome. You won't need to go out to buy a third-party stand just to be able to get your monitor in the perfect position. It also has HDR 400. Now, this isn't top-of-the-notch HDR, but I have used HDR 400 in particular, and it certainly adds to the gameplay experience when utilized versus turned off. Lastly, ports. There's 1 DisplayPort 1.2 and 2 HDMI 2.0s. Not in abundance, but certainly more than needed for most applications. Moving on, now the number 2 monitor, I chose the AOC C27 G2Z monitor. This one is a little bit bigger, 27 inches. That really doesn't matter when it comes to gaming competitiveness, kind of more of a preference thing. Personally, I prefer 24 to 25 inches, but again, totally up to you guys. In addition, the resolution is 1080p once again. Screen tearing is no problem, as this display has FreeSync Premium. For the refresh rate, we're looking at 240 Hz, so 40 Hz less than the previous monitor, but hey, do you really need 280 refreshes per second? I would only be saying yes in very specific situations, like if you have a overkill computer or you very frequently play super competitive games that actually output frame rates of around 240 to 280 frames per second. And even with that being said, the extra 40 Hz aren't really doing you too many favors. Our brain can only register so much at once, or maybe that's just my very slow brain talking, but I don't think it's that big of a deal that this has 40 Hz less than the previous monitor, honestly. But moving on, this display has a 0.5 millisecond response time. Pretty interesting. Nowadays, you'll start to see these newer gaming monitors have response times of sub 1 millisecond. So the competitive edge gets even deeper here. And are there any cool, unique, special technologies in this thing? Well, yeah, kind of. It has a 1500R curve, which is a decently significant display curve. I personally prefer curved displays. They kind of wrap along the curvature of your eye, making the viewing experience more pleasant. And how about the panel? This guy has a VA panel, which is said to be the middle guy of the 3 panel types, not as bad as TN, but not nearly as good as IPS. All you're really missing out on with VA versus using IPS is colors. You're not getting the greatest range of colors available, but in gaming, that isn't really the biggest priority, and with VA technology, you're usually able to get better response times too. And for the stand, it has pivot, swivel, and tilt, so all the same adjustments you can make with the previous monitor, which is awesome. How about number 3? And number 3 is the LG 27GP750B, another gaming targeted monitor. Let's see how this one compares to the previous two. This one is 27 inches paired with a resolution of 1080p, so the pixels will look a bit big, but if that doesn't really bother you, no worries. Usually this is something you'd only notice if you're very picky like me, but for gaming, it's no problem. For the refresh rate, once again, 240 Hz, so a buttery smooth experience that is only found in these higher end gaming monitors. Of course, it also has a response time of 1 millisecond, so you're getting a rapid response from the PC to the display. As for the panel type, it's IPS with HDR capabilities, not the best HDR, but the fact that it's there is certainly great. It also has G-Sync and FreeSync Premium, so screen tearing won't be something you need to worry about per usual. The stand is just as impressive as the previous ones. Tilt height and pivot adjust, so all the adjustments you can imagine, it can make them happen. Something pretty interesting about this product in particular is the large vertical stand. I figure it's fat like that so you can hide your cables and whatnot, but I don't know if making it this big is completely necessary. I mean, even if you did have a ton of cables going into your monitor, you wouldn't need that much room for them. But yeah, lastly for ports, this guy has 2 HDMI 2.2s and 1 DisplayPort, so pretty standard connectivity. Next up, a pretty big one, I chose the AOC C32 G2ZE monitor. This guy is 32 inches with a resolution of 1080p. Now, usually with bigger monitors, you'll want a higher resolution alongside that to counter the fact that the pixels will be getting larger. But like I said earlier, if that doesn't really bother you, then there's nothing to be concerned about. I mean, one of my buddies uses a 32-inch 1080p monitor and is an absolute legend at Overwatch and Valorant, so clearly it doesn't hurt your gaming ability. For refresh rate, we're looking at 240 Hz, and for response time, only half a millisecond, similar to the second monitor we talked about. Half a millisecond response time will certainly get you in an advantageous state over people who don't have a refresh rate, don't have a response time in the fraction of a second range. The panel is VA, meaning not the greatest colors out there, but if your primary goal is gaming, that shouldn't be too big of a deal anyway. And what about screen tearing? Well, we're looking at AMD FreeSync Premium and G-Sync. We once again have a perfect stand for this monitor, being height and tilt adjustable, doesn't seem to be able to rotate, but that's one that's rarely used, so shouldn't be a problem to most of you. So this overall is a really nice display. It's just that super large screen that you have to get used to. Again, the larger the screen, the larger the pixels, meaning they'll be more noticeable when compared to, say, a 27 or 24-inch screen. And finally, number 5 is surprisingly an Alienware. Yes, in this mystical fantasy land we live in, there is a reasonably priced Alienware product, being the Alienware AW2521HF. I looked through dozens of monitors and I'm really surprised still that this monitor made the list. Nonetheless, let's take a look at its specs. Similar to the first monitor, this Alienware has a screen size of 24.5 inches with a resolution of 1080p. As for the refresh rate, we're looking at 240 Hz, so just like every single monitor we talked about in this list, it has a super buttery smooth refresh rate, allowing for you to see every frame that your high-end or low-end graphics card could possibly squeeze out. There is a response time of 1 millisecond, so pretty default by the competitive standards of this price range. And for the panel type, it's an IPS panel, so great colors, very little ghosting. No tearing will occur if you have a compatible GPU, as this display comes with G-Sync and FreeSync Premium technology. And you'll love to see it, a wonderful stand that can adjust height and tilt. What's particularly unique about this monitor here is all the ports it gives you. Honestly, you could never have too many USB ports, so Alienware decided to give you an additional 4 at the bottom of this display. In addition, it has customizable lighting that will likely never be seen unless your monitor is not against a wall. But hey, it's there. Other ports included are 2 HDMI and 1 DisplayPort. So yeah, those are the top 5. Links for all of them are in the description. All 5 are fantastic monitors. You seriously can't go wrong purchasing any of these. But if I had to choose one that really gave you the best bang for your buck, it would certainly be the #1 monitor, the Asus TUF 24.5-inch display. There's quite a few reasons for this. Firstly, it has the highest refresh rate of 280 Hz. You'll always have a slight edge with a higher refresh rate compared to the next guy, no matter how you look at it. You're simply able to see more information every second, giving you an advantage. Moving on, this display is IPS, so beautiful colors across the board, especially with the included bonus of HDR400. And the size is really important here, 24.5 inches, so you won't be batting your eyes everywhere, as the screen size is a little smaller than something like 27 or 32 inches. So yeah, that'll wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Have any comments or questions, drop a comment below. And if you enjoyed the content that you're seeing, drop a sub. Thanks for watching. Peace out.